Chapter 37, The Request, Antony's POV. Why did you drink from Kenta instead of me? At first, Antony was almost relieved to have Hanyu's wail cut off his frantic rambling. Then the meaning of the words sank in and he tensed. Caught. Is it part of my punishment from yesterday? Hanyu went on. Because I beg you to do anything else, my lord. Beat me or starve me or whatever pleases you. Please don't stop drinking from me. Damn it, he knew he should have sworn the worm boy to secrecy. Of course Kenta had told Hanyu what happened, and of course Hanyu was taking it personally. Why shouldn't he? It was personal, just not in the way he thought. He was going to have to explain. He was going to have to tell Hanyu about everything that had happened, but he couldn't even stand to think about it, no matter how many centuries dragged by. So how could he bring himself to talk about it? And why today? He was still so drained from his fight with Theodora. There wasn't a single bit of energy left in him to deal with a wailing human. He didn't have to deal with this. He had the power to make it stop, right now. And he should. He should just snap at the boy. He should tell him that he was going to bed, and they would talk about it later. Better yet, he should tell Hanyu that he did not, in fact, have to explain any of his actions to his attendant. But Theo would be so disappointed in him. Even more persuasive than the thought of Theo was the sight of Hanyu's big brown eyes spilling over with tears and the sound of his voice quivering with pure misery. Antony had caused all of that. What was worse, Hanyu apparently thought that this was all a part of his punishment from yesterday, his stupid faux punishment that he had thought was real, another instance of Antony distressing him without meaning to, and Antony couldn't bring himself to brush off the boy's pain. He had to explain. Heaving an unnecessary breath, he tried to envision himself breathing in patience, energy, calm. Hanyu, no, you're not being punished, Antony fumbled. I told you, that was only because of Marcus. It's not that. Then why? Do I taste bad? The boy rushed his words out between great gulping sobs. Antony grabbed his hand and pulled him over to the sofa where they both sat. Your blood is some of the best I've had in centuries. Antony was startled into honesty. That wasn't the reason. I was worried I would hurt you. You'd just taken a caning. It wasn't so bad, Hanyu snuffled around another sob. You weren't injured the other day after everything with the chest. Antony hoped that wasn't too sore a subject for this already tense moment. But you still swooned when I tried to drink. That startled me. I don't want it to happen again. Oh. They sat in pained silence for a moment while the boy's sobs slowed and stopped. He kept up a steady flow of tears, though, and snot. Stay here. I'll be right back. Antony darted to the washroom to fetch a cloth, then returned and proffered it to his miserable attendant. It'll do for a handkerchief, I suppose. Hanyu nodded and blew his nose, loudly and wetly, into the towel. Antony flinched and hoped that the laundry would lose that one when it was time to return his washing. Why does it bother you so much? He asked when Hanyu finished clearing his nose. Doesn't it hurt when I feed from you? Yes. Hanyu drew the word out uncertainly. But it's not all that bad. I feel light and giddy afterwards, which is nice. And I like how you touch me when you're drinking from me. Oh, I see, Antony said carefully. I didn't mean to wound you. In fact, that was exactly what I was trying to avoid. The boy gave a soggy huff of laughter, and Antony felt the churning in his guts ease a little. I promise I'm strong enough, Hanyu said. Would you please drink from me? I will. Antony hoped he could keep that promise. No, I meant now. Alarm thrummed through Antony's gut. Right now? But I already... Please, Antony? Damn it, how was he so weak to those two words? Paired with the boy's low, tremulous tones and enormous, teary brown eyes, they seemed designed to turn Antony into a jelly. He looked warily at Hanyu. Was this picture of misery before him calculated to elicit exactly that reaction? Had the boy figured him out so easily? No. Hanyu's gaze was open and sincere. If this were an act, it would have fooled his father's whole court, and the boy had said himself he couldn't act. The ridiculous creature kept all his emotions right out on his face. This was genuine. Anyhow, Antony was still hungry. He hoped Marcus was wrong about the humans' needs. If they did crave domination, Antony was proving to be a pretty poor excuse of a master for Hanyu. All right. The boy's face split into a grin bright and joyous enough that it almost quelled the fearful churning of Antony's guts. Thank you, my lord! The damn fool was actually bouncing in place on the sofa. For goodness sakes, Hanyu, hold still. Antony knew his tone was more waspish than the situation really called for, but his mind was suddenly crowded with visions of all the things his fangs could do to the flesh of a moving target. Hanyu subsided, his smile barely dimmed, and tilted his chin in offering. Antony swallowed hard and inched closer. This was fine. It was fine. He'd already had something to eat today. His control would be ironclad. He would take a single swallow to prove his point and make Hanyu feel better, and then he could pull away. One swallow, just one. He would push his fangs through the skin, Hanyu's skin, and Hanyu would die. He'll die. I'll do it again. I'll shake him and scream and beg, and it won't do any good because he'll be dead. They're dead. He'll be dead. It's all happening again. No, not again. I can't. Antony reared back on the cushion. At the last moment, he remembered Hanyu's desire for touch, and instead of pushing the boy away as he had been about to do, he fisted his hands in Hanyu's robe and rested his forehead against his attendant's shoulder. He'd breathed slow and deep. The air itself couldn't do anything to calm him anymore, but the habit could. Marcus was right. He was weak, he was broken, he was lazy, and too indulgent of himself and others. He had no stomach for the hard, necessary things. He couldn't push past his fears. They were controlling him. No, he was letting them control him. He was choosing this, and he should be choosing to be strong instead. It was just a movement, just a matter of twisting his neck and opening his mouth. He was perfectly physically capable. If he had any willpower at all, he would be able to make himself do it. He had no willpower. He knew that. He couldn't stop himself from talking to Hanyu or bring himself to intimidate him at the beginning. He couldn't stop himself from trying to manipulate Marcus. He couldn't stop his brain from cannibalizing itself on old wounds. He couldn't eat a simple fucking meal. His half-siblings would have laughed themselves sick if they could have seen how pathetic he would turn out. He could see the gleeful smirks now, and his father, he could just as easily imagine his disappointment completely untainted with surprise. Had the king always seen this core of weakness in him? It didn't matter. The king and all his precious true-born children were dust by now. They couldn't see him like this. Antony was lucky to have one of only 2 front-row seats to his own mental collapse. 3, if he counted Theo, he supposed. Damn it. I can't, he managed to tell the third member of this happy trio after a too long moment. His voice was steadier than he had expected, but he was too rattled to be proud of that. I'm sorry.